Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. My name is Anas and I'm a teacher at the International Knowledge School. Today we will pick up where we left off, which was we finished capacity and now we're going to weight. In the previous episode, we talked about two more important things, which are comparing objects and capacity. So first let's talk very quickly about comparing objects. So when you compare objects, there are always words you can say to describe them, like big, small, tall, short, long, tall, full, empty, heavy, light, and many other words that we have here as well. Morning and evening are also opposites. So these are words we use to describe things. So this page is full, for example. I'm not sure there's a page that's blank. But if I were to give you an example, this page is full, this page is blank, there is nothing in it, so they are opposites. Okay, so these are opposing words or opposite words, and they are used to describe a certain thing or a certain object. Okay, so these are some of the examples here: empty, full, tall, short, big, small, heavy, light, and big and small as well. Okay, so that's how we compare objects. We have a lot of words that describes them, but these are enough for now. If you memorize them, you can describe things around the house. And if you remember, last time's homework was to go around the house with your parents and try to compare things. So this is big, this is small, this is long, this is short, and things like that. Okay. Afterwards, we moved on to capacity. Capacity is how much liquid a container can carry. We can have two words, greater and smaller. Greater can carry more. Smaller can carry less. Okay. So there are naturally some containers that can carry more or greater than the others. So here, the bucket has a greater capacity than the spoon. The jug has greater capacity than the teacup. The teacup has a smaller capacity than the jug. The spoon has a smaller capacity than the bottle. So here we have greater capacity or smaller capacity, or we can use more or less. A cup holds more than a teaspoon. A glass holds less than a bottle. A bucket holds more than a saucepan. A teaspoon holds less than a pot. Okay, so that's how we can describe different capacities and different containers that we can see here, or you might have more at home. Here we have a couple of things that we've done. We have half full, full, empty, and full. Now, these containers might carry the same thing, but this one is carrying more than this one, just because this one is full and this one is half full. But the containers themselves can carry exactly the same amount of water or liquid, or water in this case. Okay, now today we'll talk about weight. Okay, now different objects in the world have different weights, and here we will see how we can describe their weight and how we can compare their weight to one another. Okay, so the first one here, this book is heavy. This book is heavier than the paper. So this book is heavier than the paper. This paper is light. The paper is lighter than the book. Okay, this book is heavy. This paper is light. This book is heavier than this paper. This paper is lighter than this book. Okay, so that's how we can compare the words. We can use lighter and heavier. Of course, to describe them, we use heavy and light. So this book is light. This table is heavy. This table is heavier than this book. This book is lighter than this table. Okay, so that's how we can describe heavy and light. Let's take a look at the questions here. Circle each one that is heavier. So we're going to circle one in each of these pictures here that is heavier than the others. So let's go on ahead and do that. So here, A. Which one is heavier, the bird or the feather? Now, a bird has a lot of feathers in his wing, so he must be heavier. The bird is heavier. Which is heavier, the hammer or the nail? Of course, the hammer. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and pause the video, answer C, D, and E, and then check with me if you have the same answers. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, if you pause the video and answer the questions, let's take a look. So C, we have a shoe and a shoelace. A shoe is definitely heavier because the shoelace goes on the shoe, and the shoe is the main thing. A car and a bus. A bus is much bigger. So it's the heavier one. Here we have maybe a bean and a banana. A bean is small, a banana is big. So usually big means heavier. Although big doesn't always mean heavier. Heavy doesn't relate to size. But usually we can say big is heavier, sorry. Okay? Now here, circle each one that is lighter. So we're doing the opposite. So here we're circling the one that is lighter. So I'll do the first one and then you'll do the rest of them on your own and then check with me. So you have a table and a chair. Which one is lighter? The chair. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, answer the questions, and then we'll look at them together. Okay, so if you pause the video and you answer them, let's take a look. We have a cow and a goat. A goat is smaller, which almost means it's lighter. A pineapple and an apple. Well, an apple is smaller, so it means it's lighter. A needle and a sewing machine. A needle. TV and a radio. A radio is smaller and lighter. Okay, so let's take a look very quickly at what we've done. Bird is heavier. Hammer is heavier. Shoe is heavier. A bus is heavier. A banana is heavier. Here we're going to lighter. So a chair is lighter. A goat is lighter. An apple is lighter. A needle is lighter. And a radio, or the radio, is lighter. So we have heavier and lighter. Heavier, lighter. Okay? Join these in order of weight, starting with the lightest. So which one is the lightest here? Well, we have a sheet of paper, so that means it's the lightest. Okay? So where is the next lightest? We have balloon, rice, and bricks. Well, bricks is the heaviest one, so it's impossible. Rice, no. Must be the balloon. Okay, so the balloon is lighter. Then, next up, we have rice and the bricks. Bricks are very heavy, so it must be rice. And then we go to bricks. Okay, so here we have a sheet, balloon, rice, and bricks at the end. Okay, so these are, this is how we order them in terms of weight. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to try this. Draw something heavier and something lighter than each of these. Okay, so I have a brick. What is heavier than a brick? I have to draw a picture under it here or like over it, so it's up to you. Here we have a plate. What's heavier than a plate? You can draw it here or here, it's up to you. What is heavier than an orange? You can draw it next to it or under it, that's okay as well. That will be today's homework, so you have to do this at home. On your own. So draw something heavier and something lighter than each of these. So something heavier here and something lighter. Heavier, lighter, heavier, lighter. Okay? It's okay if you don't have to draw it here. You can draw it here. You can draw it anywhere else. That's fine. What matters is something heavier and something lighter. Okay? So a quick review. Heavy, light. Heavier, lighter. Okay, so that's how we compare weights on different objects. Okay, so let's go ahead to the next page where we have balancing. Okay, balancing. This balance can compare weights. The lower piece of wood is heavier. the higher piece of food is higher. So when it goes down, that means it's heavy. When it goes up, it means it's lighter. So in this case, this one went down, which means it's heavier. This one went up, which means it's lighter. Okay, so the lower piece of food is heavier, the higher piece of food is lighter. Okay, make a balance with a teaspoon on one end and take to show if each object was heavier or lighter than the teaspoon. Okay, so we have to make you have to take a stick and a line. Put the line in the middle, or the string in the middle, so it can hold the stick on an even ground. So it has to stay like this. Not like this or like this, no, it has to stay like this. It has to be a bit longer as well. And then tie something on this end and something on this end. The one that goes down is heavier. The one goes up is lighter. Same thing if that happened this way. The one that went down is heavier. The one that went up is lighter. So here, heavier, lighter. Heavier, lighter. So up, light, down, heavy. Up, light, down, heavy. Okay? Now I know the answers to these, but if you can get a line or a string and a piece of stick or a stick and create this balance, you can check for yourself if these answers are right or wrong. Okay, but I'm going to answer them out of experience because I've already done that many times before. Okay, make a balance with a teaspoon on one end. Take to show if each object was heavier or lighter than the teaspoon. Okay, so here we have heavier than a teaspoon, lighter than a teaspoon. Now this looks like soap, so I'm going for heavier than a teaspoon. Okay, because the teaspoon is small and usually doesn't have any weight, so this one is heavier. Now here, this one is heavier than a teaspoon, than a spoon, lighter than a spoon. Now pencils are very, very light, and the teaspoon is made out of metal, so I'm going for lighter. Pencil is lighter than a teaspoon. Okay, heavier than a teaspoon or lighter than a teaspoon. This looks to be made out of metal, so I'm going for heavier. Most things here are heavier because the teaspoon is very light. Heavier than a teaspoon or lighter than a teaspoon. This is made of more metal and plastic, so this is heavier than a teaspoon. Okay, heavier than a teaspoon or lighter than a teaspoon. Of course, heavier. This looks like a very heavy book. This is heavier. A cup, well, it depends on what kind of cup it is, but usually it's heavier than a teaspoon. Okay, you can get the balance and check for yourself. If you find any mistakes here, that might mean one of two things. The spoon you use might be heavy, or I made a mistake, and that's fine. Both are fine as well. Okay, so let's go back. Here, this one is heavier than a spoon. This one is lighter than a spoon. Heavier than a spoon. Heavier than a spoon. Heavier than a spoon. Heavier than a spoon. Okay, so all of these are heavier except for the pencil, which is lighter than a teaspoon. Alright, so that's good. Now we can move on to the next one. Draw these objects on the correct places on each balance. So here we're going to draw these objects here on the balances. So one is heavier and one is lighter. Of course, we might have to color them as well, but that will be if we had time. So here we have a balloon, and then we have a gift. Now, of course, the gift is going to be heavier, so I'm going to draw it here. Okay, then we have the balloon here. Okay, so that's the balloon, and that's the gift. My gift is heavier than the balloon. Okay, next up, we have a watch and a clock. The clock seems to be bigger, so that usually means that it's heavier. So let's go and draw it here. Okay. Okay, so that's the clock, and here we have a watch. Okay, so now here we have a watch, and here we have a clock. The clock is heavier than the watch. Okay, so let's go ahead. Next, we have a leaf, and we have a level. So which one is heavier? I'll go with this one, so the heavier. This one's lighter, and the lemon is actually heavier. So let's put it here. Okay, so the lemon is heavier than the leaf. Here we have a glove, and here we have a boot or a shoe. The shoe is obviously heavier, so let's go for that one. Okay, so that's a boot, and here we're going to draw the glove. Okay, so the glove is lighter than the boot. So very quickly again, let's review. The down, heavier, up, light. Down, heavier, up, lighter. Down, heavier, up, lighter. Down, heavier, up, lighter. So remember that whenever you try to compare any two objects, the one that is down is usually heavier, the one that is up is usually lighter. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.